Tonight's, well, actually this whole year's top story is this. The Democratic Party and the globalist elite are waging war on American democracy. Let's take a look at just this week's headlines and you'll see why. The state of Maine on Thursday became the second to try to unconstitutionally remove former President Donald Trump from the presidential ballot in 2024. This follows Colorado, where a junta of far-left judges at the behest of the Soros-funded activists tried and unfortunately are failing to do exactly the same thing. Now, these efforts are also underway in over a dozen other states, copying verbatim the playbooks of dictatorships like Iran, China, and even Russia. Meanwhile, having totally trashed the economy and landing America in a string of devastating foreign wars, the Democrats have figured out that they only have one way to keep on winning elections, and that's by importing wholesale an entire new population of voters. Team Biden has intentionally abolished our southern border, flooding America with unprecedented millions of illegal migrants and phony asylum seekers, including hundreds of suspected terrorists. They're on the watch list. But isn't it worth the cost of inviting a few terrorists, violent offenders, and gang members just to keep control of the White House? Here are today's numbers from the CBP, but I caution you. Now make sure you're sitting down for this. There were over 276,000 migrant encounters at the border this December, with 3 days to go still. The highest single month on record. We're now at over 760,000 migrant encounters since October 1st, making this quarter also the highest ever on record. Now, for context, that's more than the population of Seattle. They're unknown, unvetted, and all eligible to plunder American taxpayer dollars, being brought into the country by Joe Biden every 3 months. I mean, think about that. The core promise of our democracy from the very start has been the freedom of speech. So if all I just mentioned makes your blood boil and you want to express that anger, well, that's literally the very first article in the Bill of Rights, and that's for good reason. Except the elites today see that for the mortal threat it is to their power-hungry goals. And it's the very first right now under attack. Whether it's Biden's nonstop ludicrous persecution of Elon Musk for his sin of defending free speech online, or holding hundreds of nonviolent January 6 protesters in brutal, gulag-like conditions with no bail, despite all the tapes now proving their innocence, or using the FBI to terrorize frustrated public school parents and to spy on conservative Catholic parishes. This illegitimate regime clearly sees the First Amendment as their #1 impediment. And finally, there's the moral, spiritual element to all this. The elite Soros-funded radicals are in charge of law enforcement, and they're clearly using extremist left-wing groups and militias to destroy the morale and psyche of good, traditional, law-abiding Americans. Now, during COVID, they used mandates to break up traditional communities and drive people into desperation, in solitude in their home. And they used law to target things they hate, like churches, gyms, mom-and-pop businesses, all in favor of massive online corporations and so-called public health bureaucracy. Then they enlisted the BLM rioters to unleash violence on all of our inner cities and suburbs. They spin the media into a fraudulent narrative about race and demonstrate the kind of force Democrats were willing to use if necessary to drive President Trump out of office. And now they're enabling terrorist sympathizers to storm the 9/11 memorial and the nation's capital, letting almost all of them go scot-free to demonstrate, yes, once again, yet another election right in front of us. What these Democrat elites are willing to do for their political enemies, if their voting doesn't magically go their way, again, I can't even explain it. Except today, it's the Jews in Israel they're calling for genocide. Who knows who's going to be after 2024? But I do have a few ideas. But more importantly, is that we can't let it happen, folks. And we won't let it happen. I still have faith. Now, not in our government, which I know all too well has been corrupted. Gee, after more than 20 years in service, from the Marine Corps to the FBI to the hallowed halls of Congress, I'm certain of a few things. Government leaders, with a minuscule exception, will always put their own power and fortune above the American people's interest. Bureaucrats will always grow the size of government and abuse power that they don't even really possess. And the American people are the strongest, most resilient, and innovative people in the world. Most Americans just want to live in peace, give their children more than they had. They're plain spoken, and they call a spade, which is why Donald Trump is soaring in the polls. Former President Trump is one of those exceptions. He was already rich and powerful long before politics, and one of the very few that actually lost money after being elected to the presidency. So I'm leaving my faith in God always, but also in the American people. And I trust they will see the Democrats' war on democracy for what it is. And they'll utilize their inherent constitutionally guaranteed right at the ballot box. Because if they don't, I'm almost so certain of one thing. We will be calling Donald Trump president again.